Disciples of the necropolis, gather round, for today we shine an unholy light on the decaying soul of modern gaming. A realm once teeming with creativity and wonder now lies desecrated by profane rituals of greed, monetization schemes masquerading as content. These issues plague the gaming community, yet few dare to confront the necrotic heart of the problem. But fear not, dear disciples, for while many developers have fallen to the lure of easy profits, there are still those who dare to defy the tide. Together, we shall uncover how this rot took hold and, more importantly, how we can rise against it. So, tell me honestly, when was the last time you felt true wonder playing a game? Not from hollow rewards or gaudy cosmetics, but from an experience that respected your time, your intelligence, and soul. Stick with me as we peel back the layers of the necrotic wound and seek to resurrect gaming's lost magic. The live service model, a once promising concept, now corrupted into an endless grind loop designed to keep you shackled. Once, I returned to Dead by Daylight after a long hiatus, only to find my gear was outdated, my rewards were unattainable, and my build had been scattered to the winds. It felt less like revisiting a beloved realm and more like standing before a graveyard of missed opportunities. Battle passes, disciples, the industry's most cleverest and most profane ritual. They lure you in with shiny rewards, then extend the grind to absurd length until the only way out is to pay. Ask yourself, do you feel respected when a game rewards your grind with a glorified sticker? Or when every moment feels like a race against the clock, lest you miss out on some exclusive content? Worse still, new generations are growing up in this twisted landscape, conditioned to accept monetized grind loops as the pinnacle of game design. What happens when they believe that gaming is about chasing rewards rather than chasing awe and adventure? The necrotic rot of creativity spreads, and the magic of gaming risks becoming a distant memory. Live service games promise endless content, but often they just delivered the same recycled experiences. Whether it's a shooter, a sports game, or even, I know my favorite, fantasy RPGs, it's always the same formula. Grind, pay, repeat. Grind, pay, repeat. Grind, pay, repeat. But fear not, dear disciples, for in this next chapter, we're going to celebrate the single-player titles that still dare to honor gaming's true spirit. All right, disciples, let's talk about a true tragedy in modern gaming: the oversimplification of mechanics. Once, games demanded thought, exploration, and even glorious failure. Now, well, they guide you so tightly, it feels like they fear you might stray from their preordained path. I recall my first time playing Banner Saga. Every battle was a delicate dance, every decision carried weight, and failure wasn't just possible, it was meaningful. Compare that to a recent RPG that I tried, where every objective came from glowing markers and companions who wouldn't stop shouting hints, as if I were some feeble mortal in need of constant guidance. Accessibility is essential. I mean, come on, I get it, and I fully support customizable controls and difficulty slider. But let's be clear, there's a difference between empowering players and dumbing down the experience for everybody. True accessibility invites players into the world. Oversimplification drags them through it. And combat? I mean, once, skill trees offered intricate builds, and weapons carried distinct identities. Now, many games reduce progression to generic stat boosts. Every sword feels like a glorified stick. Every skill tree is a shallow pool of meaningless upgrades. Let me ask you, when was the last time that a game truly trusted you to figure things out? The erosion of depth and discovery, it's not just just lazy. It's a betrayal of what gaming could be. But do not despair, dear disciples. In the next chapter, we're going to celebrate the single-player games that still dare to inspire awe. Celebrating single-player games. Here we go. Single-player games. The defiant beacons in an industry plagued by grind-fueled live service model. These games respect your time, your intelligence, and your curiosity. First, let's take Elden Ring, a game that doesn't hold your hand, but dares you to find your own way. Every triumph in that game feels earned. Every secret, a discovery. Compare this to live service games where rewards often come from simply existing within their monetized loop. Okay, here's another one, and honestly, it's one of my favorites. Consider The Witcher 3. This game is a masterpiece in storytelling and world building. And unlike live service games that drip feed plots across seasons, single-player titles offer complete narratives, stories that linger in your mind long after the credits roll. Even indie gems like Hollow Knight and casual joys like Stardew Valley remind us that heart, not grind, is what makes a game memorable. Great games don't need endless content and trash. They need meaningful content. To the developers who still craft these masterpieces, I raise a toast from one undead soul to another. And to you, dear disciples, when faced with the choice between grinding for a digital trinket and embarking on a rich journey, I want to encourage you, always choose the path that respects your time. But before we conclude, there's a final question that we must confront. Can our industry be saved, or are we doomed to watch creativity rot further? Let's find out in our closing rites. Cult of the Dead. My disciples of the necropolis, we have reached the final rites of our journey. This was a tale filled with lament for what gaming once was and hope for what it might still become. We have wandered through the decaying halls of live service models. We have laughed very bitterly at the oversimplification of mechanics, and we have celebrated the bold creators who continue to craft complete and meaningful experiences. But where do we go from here? I mean, the future of gaming isn't set in stone. As consumers, you and I hold the power. Support the games that honor your time. Champion creativity over greed. Demand better from an industry that can offer so much more than hollow grind loops and monetized trinkets. And to the developers out there listening, and I know you are, remember, the greatest games aren't those that milk the players dry. They're the ones that inspire awe, loyalty, and true joy. Build worlds worth exploring. Weave stories worth experiencing. Come on! Forge mechanics worth mastering. You have the power, devs, to resurrect gaming's soul. Gaming is a hobby. Gaming is an industry. Stands at a crossroads. One path leads to the shallow allure of endless monetization, and the other to the promise of rich, player-driven adventures. So let us, the Cult of the Dead, rise as unyielding sentinels of gaming's soul. Support the games that honor creativity and banish the profiteering husks to the void where they belong. Now look, before you vanish into the digital world yourself, remember, together we can push back the rot. Let's bury the mediocrity. Let's resurrect gaming's soul before it's too late. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, or risk an ancient curse filling your next loot box with despair.